Hello there, everybody, and welcome to a, special day across sports and a interesting episode of The Guys Who Stare at Stats. I'm Cade Kennedy, alongside Connor Gray. No Andrew today. He is currently still out of town, so we will not be having him on the show today. But today is a special day. This is the 27th time that this has happened, where we have football, baseball, basketball, and hockey on the same day. We have a sports equinox. Like I said, only the 27th time that has ever happened. And so for episode 85 of our show, we get to cover something that very rarely happens. So before we get into some of the things that are going to be happening today, we're going to talk a little MLB, a little NFL today, and then what will happen in college football and the NFL this weekend. The important question of the day, as always, Connor, how has your day been?
Been very good so far. Had good dinner at 818 Diner and pretty much obviously played some good jazz music today.
Well, there you go. So we will have to start with baseball. Obviously, the big thing going on right now, the NLCS and ALCS. Yesterday, we got both. The Padres, they get down in a 4-0 hole early, but that did not stop their offense. When you bat around in the fifth, it is going to be an interesting experience no matter where you're at. Padres getting an 8-5 win over the Phillies. And then game one of the ALCS, the Astros able to hold their own and beat the Yankees 4-2.
Say with Houston, New York, Verlander still shows why he's still one of the best pitchers in baseball despite he's up there in age. And obviously Phillies had their chance to go up 2-0 and they failed. San Diego did a great job with their bats, getting it back in the game and taking the win. Obviously, pitching for both sides for that game could use some work in the starting lineup aspect.
Yep. And then tonight, as a part of our game, we get the ALCS Game 2 with New York taking on Houston. Interesting to see. If you're Houston, I mean, every game's a must-win in the playoffs, obviously, but this one a little bit more important. You're trying to go up 2-0. And then Friday, San Diego and Philadelphia going now back to Citizens Bank Park. That's an important game 3. That's the momentum game right there.
Yep, it is. For Philly, this is your chance to take 3 straight at home.
Yep. Yes, they got 3, 4, and 5 are all at home. You have a chance to get momentum really going.
And obviously, if they take game 3, that will probably carry some momentum to take game 4, and they could possibly take game 5. In Philly, but obviously you're dealing with the Padres who have been playing really well without Tatis Jr. So that's going to says a lot more about San Diego as a team than it really does. But Philly, they were able to beat San Diego, not much issues. The first game 1, they can still beat San Diego to take the series.
They very well could. Looking at it, at least how I think it's going to go, I've got Houston and Philadelphia. I think both home teams will play well. They'll get going there. I think Houston goes up 2-0, and Philly takes that important 2-1 advantage.
I agree. I agree on that. Overall, Houston is just they're just too overwhelming. In my opinion, they're going to overwhelm you with their pitching, which has been very spot on. Hitting, obviously, I know you get 4 runs, still pretty good, but their pitching is just going to be too much for the Yankees to deal with. It's going to be a hard series for the Yankees.
Yep, and that takes us into the NFL. Obviously, we have a not terrible on paper game, at least for Thursday night football.
At least on paper.
But New Orleans will be taking on Arizona. That's the first game up on the list here. Prime Video, of course, tonight, Thursday night football. Cardinals are a 2.5-point favorite, but still have not won a game at home yet this year. They're 0-3.
I don't know what to say about that. It's just like, well, at least for them, they'll luckily get Hopkins back. I believe this is the first game he'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be back.
So this will be time for Arizona to really get things cleared up in the receiving game because it just really kind of shows just how important Hopkins is to the Cardinals and how you really needed him to not get injured and not get suspended.
Yep.
But New Orleans is still trying to go through all their fits. Obviously, for them, they're 1-1 on the road, so they're 50-50. So not really much to say about that.
Yeah, when it comes to this, I mean, the Cardinals have lost 8 straight at home. You're coming off that bad loss to Seattle. I think they find a way, though. You lose, you got to have the trade-off. You lose Marquise Brown, you gain DeAndre Hopkins back. I think they find something there, at least this week against the Saints, and are able to get the win.
Yeah, with the Saints being in shambles at this point, at least at this point of the season, going to the seventh game, Arizona. I agree with you. Arizona takes that. I think with getting Hopkins back, that will help elevate their game, especially helps Kyler Murray out find a good target.
It absolutely does. And the next one here we have, it's the Falcons and the Bengals. I don't think anyone expected both of these teams to be 3-3 right now going up against each other, but it is going to be an interesting one for sure in Cincinnati. Bengals are a 6.5-point favorite in this one, though.
Yeah, pretty much. Since it feels like overall, since he's played more, actually, they probably both have equally played tough opponents. Since he's a bit more battle challenged, but in regards to just really, it's like Falcons. Like you don't really know what you're gonna get out of them because like they were able to beat some good teams and then proceed to not play the best overall. But it's like I wouldn't be surprised if Falcons really could take this one, but I'm going to play it safe, and I'm going to pick the Bengals to win.
That's where I'm at. I think the Bengals are able to find a way. The Falcons, they're going to be competitive. We all know that from this year. But I just don't think they have the team to beat the Bengals. When the Bengals are on, they're on. Still.
The way you stay on for the Bengals, you just protect Burrow.
Yeah.
You give him plenty of time to throw the football. It's magic. You're going to have a good season. Yeah. That's really what it comes down to.
The other big thing for the Bengals, they've got to find a way to get the run game going. It has not been there at all this year.
And thing is, Mixon and was able to run pretty good last year, so they got to get that fixed really up because you also have P. Ryan on there. You have all these good running backs you have in the backfield. It's like you got to get them going.
Yeah, so the offensive line continuing to be a problem for Cincinnati. The next one we have here, Dak Prescott will be back. You don't really need him if you're Dallas. You're playing the Lions, but he will be back. Cooper Rush memes were good for a while. Those will unfortunately go away. Cowboys are a 7-point favorite in Dak's return.
Understandable. You obviously Dallas, they're getting their best player back, and we'll just see how he'll play. I know he got obviously the injury in Game 1. Didn't really do much to help them, but it's just like who really knows how I look at it is like what Dak Prescott are you going to get? Dak Prescott's going to go off and play really well, give you good statistics throughout the game, or a guy who isn't really going to do much most of the game and then pull something out of his butt later in the game to try to do something. But Detroit is just having all kinds of problems offensively. Like they were starting a lot of the year where they would score a lot of points. Their defense just not doing much. All those, I don't really see that changing much in regards to the results. I think Dallas gets by just fine with or without Dak.
Yeah, this is one of those that even if Cooper Rush is playing, the Cowboys still have a better all-around team. Like you mentioned, Connor, Detroit giving up 34 points a game currently, no matter who they play, whether it be the Patriots, the Seahawks, the Vikings, the Commanders, the Eagles. They're going to give up points to people. I think Dak's going to have a good day with him coming back, and we're going to start seeing that, okay, well, Dak's playing well. This is all going good for him. Maybe the Cowboys, even with the setback they had, are still fine.
That they are. I believe Dallas will move on to be 5-2. It won't be much of a difference. I mean, Detroit, obviously, you never know. They could pull something. The fact they have one win on the schedule so far is just like they just get that defense fixed, or at least hunkered down on regards to giving up so much points. They could actually at least be 500 or be 3-2, 2-3.
Yeah.
Instead, or 1-4.
Yeah, they very well could put it together. It would not surprise me if we see the Cowboys continue to mesh. Now they've got to redo it, though, because now you have the getting Dak Prescott back. That is going to be a big factor there. Offense should be fine.
It should be fine.
And then the next one we have here, the Colts taking on the Titans. Each team trying to get their 4th win of the season. Going to be an important one here for both teams, of course, in the AFC South. Titans are a 2.5-point favorite in this one, with two teams that we really thought would be better than they were.
Yeah, really. They should be playing a lot better than they should. Tennessee especially you have King Henry himself in the backfield that runs over everybody. Surprisingly, he's not doing as well, and Tannehill is just not having a great overall season. I mean, you have 8 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. While you're throwing a lot yardage-wise, it's really not doing much there. And then Colts, you figured Ryan would be doing a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, the story for both these teams are defenses seem to be okay for the most part, but underwhelming offenses when they're playing each other, which kind of surprised me with that over-under being at 42. I would say a little bit lower on that.
I would have done maybe 36 or something like that.
Yeah, but I think the Titans find a way to get it done. I don't trust either of these teams, but I trust the Titans slightly more.
Their offense is a little more competent than the Colts. That's really all you can say. That's really all you can say about it.
Yeah. The next one we have here going to be the Packers, who they're coming off a pretty brutal loss. Not as bad as the Commanders, though. The Commanders are coming off a loss in a more important way in that they will not have Carson Wentz. So it is going to be a Packers team still trying to find their footing here in Week 7 versus the return of Mr. Heineke himself. But that all being said, Packers are still a 4.5-point favorite in this one.
I mean, main reason why they're even favored is because Rodgers and plus Washington hasn't played as well.
Yeah.
Overall, I mean, you can make that, wins, but it's like the team, it's as a whole hasn't played as well as they should, but mainly more of an offensive issue. Well, especially Packers, it's like their defense isn't really that great as it hasn't been in a long time, but their offense is really on the wrong aspect. I mean, you lost to the Giants and you lost to the Jets. That's not very good for the Packers. Those are teams you should beat typically, but I think for this one, it's like as Heineke will. I'm not sure how he'll be for the team overall. I think Packers will just pull one out because it's the Commanders.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting. Heineke's going to need a game to get set, readjust, or at least a quarter or two even.
Yeah.
And Green Bay will be able to take somewhat of an advantage. Not a full advantage.
No.
Both offenses are struggling here, but I think Green Bay struggles a little bit less.
I feel for Rodgers when you really have no one to throw to besides Randall Cobb.
Yeah.
He's not the same as he used to be.
Yeah, so you're still trying to get everything built for the future, basically, and you can't really do that when you have a quarterback that's trying to win now. And the next one we have, the Buccaneers taking on the Panthers. This is one that the quarterback carousel is still, I think, the most interesting story for Carolina right now. Sam Darnold might be back for this game.
I mean,
P.J. Walker, I mean, who knows where. I mean, I think he's expected to start from what I last heard. That might have changed by now.
He's supposedly supposed to start from everything I hear.
But Tampa Bay, they're in a bit of a bind, too. They lost to the Steelers last week, who are so that gives you a 3-3 Buccaneers team. These two teams do not feel like they should be on the same playing field, but Carolina was able to find a way to win. There'd only be a 1-game difference between the two.
Yeah, pretty much. But for this one, it's just like, obviously, I don't know what happened with that Buccaneers-Steelers game. It's just like the Bucs offense is just, they're struggling overall. The defense has had its struggles. I mean, it definitely had a struggle against Kansas City, but it's like the defense somewhat has it together pretty much, but the offense is not consistent in regards to how well they'll play. I mean, there's games they've won, they've squeaked by, or haven't played very good at all. I think for this one, just Carolina, just there because the whole quarterback issue, that's already plugging that team enough already. I think Bucs will win the game, but I don't really know how well the offense will be.
Yeah, so that 11-point favorite Tampa Bay has, that's going to be a bit hard to cover considering how they've played this year. And I would say the highlight of Carolina is the defense. Definitely not the offense outside of Christian McCaffrey. Then you add in the Robbie Anderson trade that happened earlier on this week. Nothing really going Carolina's way. And the next one we have here, the Giants are 5-1. They're continuing to win games no one thought possible. They've beaten the Packers and the Ravens. They're doing exactly what they are wanting to prove. They get a win at Jacksonville. They're 6-1 on the year, and they're still in that contention for the best team in the NFC. However, Jacksonville's a 3-point favorite in this game.
I mean, it's a home game, and plus, typically in the NFL, your home teams are favored unless it's like a huge team, like for instance, like Kansas City going to New York. Kansas City's going to get favored. Something like, just for an example. But it's like if you really pay attention to how the Giants have played the last 3 teams they played, it's like I would be favoring the Giants over the Jags. No, even though it's in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Even though Jacksonville has played well, they're 2-4. They've games where they really haven't played best, and then games they got away from them. But they have 2 wins, while as New York has just done everything they can just to win a game. It doesn't matter how badly or how good they play; they're just trying to win, and they're doing a good job at that. I mean, you're 5-1. Daniel Jones has been playing relatively well. He's obviously not your focal point because that's Saquon Barkley, but Daniel Jones has been a good quarterback, and I've been saying he's a solid quarterback. Everything else has got to click, and Daniel Jones has done his part, and Saquon is staying healthy. That's what you need, and I think that right there is enough to win the game. I think the Giants will take one from Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think so too. The Giants, you look at what they've been able to put together. It's been impressive for a team that everyone dunks on, and I mean rightfully so at times, where you have 3, 4, 5 win seasons where you're trying to just get anything going. This has been the year the Giants fans have been asking for. A healthy team that is able to finally do, Saquon Barkley is able to be the big motor everyone expects him to be. Daniel Jones isn't having to do everything. He just has to do enough. Everyone just has to do enough. It isn't trying to, having 11 guys trying to do the job of 15. You have 11 guys doing what 11 guys are supposed to do.
And I would say the New York Giants defense has been playing very solid.
Yeah.
Like, they might give up some stuff early, but when it matters toward the end of the game, they are on.
Yes. And the next one here, this is a game that if you would have said last year, this would be a big deal. It's the Browns and the Ravens. Okay, this is going to be a great game. This year, it's a 2-4 Cleveland taking on a 3-3 Baltimore. Both teams are really struggling at this point. Ravens are a 6.5-point favorite, though, in a game where both teams absolutely have had their struggles.
Absolutely.
I was like, well, okay, wow, that's impressive. Yeah. Both of us having to cough at the same time. Okay.
But, okay.
That's not me joke coughing. Like, that was an actual...
Yeah, it's an actual cough. I'm just laughing. But, both teams have really... Baltimore especially just been below... They've blown, 3 games. Mm-hmm. They should probably be undefeated right now. Instead, they're 3-3, and they're in the middle of the pack in regards to the playoff race. Cleveland's
they're still first in the AFC North, though.
The fact that they're still in first is
this is going to be a bad division this year.
It's a bad
surprisingly.
Well, it's also for Cleveland is that they're just trying to get by until Deshaun Watson gets back. But even then, I don't think the way their season's going, it won't even matter when he gets back. They could miss the playoffs, but obviously this is way early speculation. But for this one, I'm gonna be generous to Baltimore. They don't choke this time. They actually hold on to a lead. Lamar doesn't turn the ball over at the worst time, which would help Cleveland. I think Baltimore just gets it done. I can't really trust Cleveland.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we talk about Baltimore blowing leads. Cleveland is equally bad at doing that. Even if Baltimore was to have, their meltdown moment, Jacoby Brissett, very good at throwing interceptions in the fourth quarter. Not something you're supposed to be good at, but it's something he's become extremely talented at this year at Cleveland. Mm-hmm. I think the Ravens, they're 6.5-point favorites. I think they get the win.
And it's at home, so you should win.
You should. The next one here, the Jets taking on the Broncos.
No, I thought this would have been the Thursday game.
This has the feel of a Thursday night game. Broncos are a 1-point favorite at home. And, I mean, we know the story of the Broncos this season. A talented defense and an offense that just cannot put 2 and 2 together.
Pretty much the whole again, we go back to before the season started, all the hype was around let Russ cook or whatever and all that stuff about Russell being the savior that Denver needed. The man has even I know people want to chalk it up to Hackett's play calling and all other stuff as the head coach, but it's like at the end of the day, the quarterback has got to be looking for open receivers. He's missed several open receivers that would get them either first downs or touchdowns. And I'd say single-handedly, Drew Lock wouldn't have made those mistakes, even though people didn't like Drew Lock overall. I'm like, Drew Lock at least would have looked to see that open guy. Yeah. Russell has flat-out missed guys, and also it doesn't help that a lot of the baggage that's now coming out of former teammates from Seattle that used to work with Russell, so other kinds of stuff going on there. But Jets have overall been playing very good football. Obviously, surprisingly, things have just been going pretty solid for them. For this one, Denver's played so poorly. I'm going to give it to the Jets.
That's kind of where I'm at with this one, where I think Denver can be the better team.
Yeah, they should.
I mean, we saw flashes of it when they played the Chargers.
Yeah.
Even Wilson got off to a good start, but it can only last for so long. It slowly deteriorates throughout the game.
They can't get past 16 points.
Yeah, they really can't. It is a huge challenge for Denver. I mean, just keep an eye on that. We'll talk about it more as the season progresses. But, I mean, you can even look at it right here. 16, 9, 23, 11, 16. They've had one time in the last 5 they've been able to get over that 16 mark.
Yep.
And if you score 3 times and you get 2 touchdowns and a field goal, you will beat the Broncos. That is kind of the meme going on right now.
Overall, though, I think for this game, Denver will get past the 16, but I think Jets will do enough to take the win.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. This will be that game. I feel like we're okay. Denver looks competent, and then you slowly see it start to nope. Here come the Jets again.
Yep.
Jets are playing great football right now.
Yep.
That's not since I thought we'd be saying this year.
Oh, but
here they are.
Like, who's starting for the quarterback for Jets?
It's going to be Wilson.
I just want to make sure.
Flacco's still the leading stat guy because he played those 4 games.
Play the 4 games, but yeah. Wilson, I think, will have a good day overall. I mean, Broncos defense playing overall really well will give him problems, but they're going to be relying way too much on that defense to stop him.
Yeah, I mean that's just what happens. Their defense gets tuckered out basically. Mm-hmm. If you want a real Thursday night experience, when you look at the records, this would be it. The 1-3-1 Texans play the 1-4 Raiders in Vegas. Raiders are a 7-point favorite in this one, and yeah, this is a game that's happening.
And the thing
that's about all I could say.
The thing is Vegas in many ways should be winning. Like they will have a winning record. They shouldn't be 1-4. I mean, as a Kansas City fan, you laugh at that and like, haha, Raiders, you suck. But realistically, as someone who will not always partake in the tomfoolery, is that Vegas should be at least 3-2 or something like that. They shouldn't be 1-4, but that's what happens when your defense gives away the game. But Texans, they've struggled. They had that weird tie with the Colts, and then wow,
it was a beautiful tie.
And then they've lost 3 games. They managed to win a game throughout that. I mean, congrats to them for Texans, but Vegas gets their second win on the season.
That's pretty much where I'm at. I think Vegas is going to find a way to get a win. Texans might keep it interesting for a little bit. Everyone will check in like, is this really going to happen today? But I think Vegas takes it.
Yeah.
They're just a little bit better.
Just a little.
They'll finally be able to close out a game. I mean, look at all these one-possession losses here.
Well, it's
absolutely brutal.
Kansas City, blown lead. Blown lead.
Yeah, you're
blown lead.
Yeah, 4 games where you had the lead and you blew it. It's painful for Vegas right now, but they had the bye week, so did the Texans. Both teams trying to get back on track. The next one here, the Seahawks and the Chargers. Chargers 5.5-point favorite. Both teams coming off a big win. Each team only scoring 19 points in their win. That's a little bit of an interesting stat there. Should be a fun one. Both teams definitely have their strengths and have their weaknesses. The one that stands out to me, Seattle's not a good rushing defense at all. Chargers are not a good rushing offense at all. That's going to play a factor, I feel like. Whichever one can figure out the other there, I think has the key to winning this game.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like surprisingly, Geno Smith been very solid.
He's just vibing.
He's just being a solid QB for Seattle, and they're doing a lot better than I thought they would. But I think the Los Angeles Chargers, Herbert can easily match or even do better than Geno, even though Geno's been very solid this year. I believe Chargers will manage to take the win.
Yeah, I think this will be more of a higher scoring game. Both these offenses can play pretty well. But at the end of the day, I trust Justin Herbert more than Geno Smith. I trust Eckler more than Penny. And I trust Williams more than Lockett. I think the Chargers are a better offense. Mm-hmm. Defensively, they're questionable at times, but so is Seattle.
Seattle's suspect has been suspect on defense. Chargers just choke it at the worst possible time. So that's what it's going to come down to, which team blows it harder on defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what we're going to come down to here. The next one, the Chiefs taking on the 49ers, should be a game. Chiefs are a 2.5-point favorite going on the road to San Francisco. However, we've seen the Niners do this before, where they get into a big game and you see a just completely different team out there on the field than what you saw the last week. That's just what the Niners do. That's their type of football. They will make everyone come to their level and play their type of game. Well, do they always win that? No. But
I think whole thing in the Niners is going to their defense is going to have to play their A game, and because you're dealing with an offense like the Chiefs, and pretty much Garoppolo's not been consistent per se. Overall, I mean you're 3-3, so you at least won games with him, but overall as a team, Chiefs seem like overall a much more better team. Overwhelming offensively, but defensively, Niners have a better defense. But but Deebo Samuel is going to be the biggest problem for the Chiefs' defense the whole night. So if they stop Samuel, Chiefs will probably take the game without much issues. But if Samuel goes off, he's going to have a great day, and I think that will keep Niners in it. But at the end of the day, Chiefs will take it.
That's where I'm at. I think the Chiefs are a better just a better overall team when it comes to offense, when it comes to special teams. Defense is a bit more, but when you're that good on offense, you don't need to have a defense at times.
Well, and also sometimes it's like the Chiefs' defense will like have a random game or whatever where they'll just be studs.
Yeah, they'll have one of those step-up type of games.
It's like, why didn't you do that for these other games, but yet you'll play really well this game? Makes no sense.
It's all about matchups sometimes, and this is one of those games where I think the Chiefs' defense gets a more favorable matchup, because if you can get San Francisco off the field early and often, you give Patrick Mahomes even more time to do something, it's not a fun day. It's not a fun day for opposing defenses at all. I think the Chiefs take this one pretty easily. And then, oh boy, if we want to talk about the QB carousel game, this is the one. You've got so much going on. No one knows if Kenny Pickett's playing. No one knows what in the world's going on with Miami. No one knows who quarterbacks are anywhere, but the Dolphins are a 7-point favorite in this one.
Yeah, mainly because just inconsistency and plus maybe Miami just does enough to win. But, if Kenny plays, I'd give it to the Steelers overall. Even probably Trubisky, I'd still probably give it to them because they at least have sound quarterback play in case those two get hurt. Rudolph's still the better option versus whatever Miami has. That's not Tua. So even though you don't want to run through all three of them, if you're the Steelers, I still give it to you because your defense is still a lot more competent. Your offense at least does enough for at least everywhere else besides the quarterback position does enough for you to do whatever. Miami, their offense is nothing without Tua, pretty much what it looks like. So I'm going to give it to the Steelers. I think they'll take it, but who knows? It really just depends on how bad the Steelers play.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that, honestly, if I had to have one game to pick as a tie every week, I would pick this one, just because I think neither of these teams are going to come out and play this great. Actually, when I look at the injury report here for this one, we don't do this often because this happens whenever I try to click on it. But, I mean, I want to look at it real quick for one specific reason. I just want to see where we have certain people listed. I mean, Skylar Thompson's listed as questionable for this one. we might be seeing a return of. I don't know. People keep trying to say Tua might be back. I have no idea, honestly.
No, they've stated he won't be back. He won't be back this week.
Yeah,
Concussion protocol.
I know, but that was like a thing I heard at some point. And, oh, hey, is Tua going to be back? And no. And if that's the case, if they're going with Teddy Bridgewater, I think they can win with him. But it's rough.
It's been ever since Teddy Bridgewater's been in Miami. It's been rough. I mean, the year before this, Bridgewater was a solid backup for what you needed or could play well, but it's just not working out. Miami's just too much shambles.
Yeah, I think the Steelers, they'll find a way. They will somehow find a way.
Especially Steelers coming off a big win against the Bucs. That's really going to, I think, will lift their spirits up.
Yeah, I think that'll be a big win for Pittsburgh there, especially. Then get on the road. The next one here, Bears, Patriots, Mac Jones. He's going to play. That's what they've said. He's going to be back. Patriots are a 7.5-point favorite over the Bears.
Well, I picked New England automatically, not because Mac Jones, just that they're more competent. They're better. They're just a better team than Chicago. It's just like there's no ifs, ands, or buts around that. Just like even though it's like surprisingly Chicago has no one injured that we know of, but New England's just a better team. You have a better coach. You have better overall talent, and Mac Jones being back, you're already going to win the game right there. Unless you play so bad, the Bears actually look good.
Yeah, I don't think that one's going to happen. No. Patriots are a better team. No matter who they have at quarterback.
Exactly.
I mean, they can keep Zappy out there, and I'd still pick them to win this game.
I think
that's how bad it is.
Their defense will give Fields all kinds of problems.
Yeah. But that concludes our NFL segment. So looking at college football now, going to be another crazy week as always. Not as crazy as what we had happen last week. We don't have 5 top 25 matchups and a whole lot of insanity. But we do have Big Noon Kickoff. And it's not a Michigan game for once.
For once, it's not Michigan.
For the first time in 5 games, Ohio State is on Big Noon Kickoff and not their rival Michigan.
That I never understood. Like, I understand their whole thing is the Big Ten. You got to do whatever. But the fact that they did it, like 3 matchups that weren't really even worth being Big Noon, were still given the Big Noon spot. And in fact, it was Michigan 5 weeks in a row. Is just like, can you not? I mean, I don't like Ohio State.
No, they literally can't. They had to pick a game, and they're like, Michigan.
There were better games to choose from.
I mean, I agree, but at the same time, I don't know. But Michigan fans will rejoice because that means they get a night game next week against Michigan State. But I want to point this out. Buckeyes are a 30-point favorite. Give them 30. That's even though, it's Iowa, and we make fun of Iowa a lot. I mean, punting is winning after all. But still, you don't see that often in a conference game.
Especially someone like Iowa.
Yeah.
And, even though Ohio State arguably is probably the best team in college football, it's like, at least be generous toward Iowa. Their defense is still good, but obviously when you have Petrus behind center, that's not going to help very much in regards to the spread. I mean, we're both going to take Ohio State to win this. I mean, I wouldn't see why we wouldn't, but it's like
I was going to win 2-0.
That'd be hilarious.
They're going to find a way to score so many negative points that the scoreboard's going to glitch over, and they're going to win 1,000,000 to 70.
But I think
that's the only way I think Iowa can actually win this game.
It really is, unless Petrus decides to actually be a good quarterback.
Yeah, or C.J. Stroud throws like 8 interceptions or something.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, I know it isn't, but that's the only way I can see Iowa winning this game.
It's like Ohio State probably wins this one, but I'll go. You know what? I'll just take the spread on this. Ohio State wins.
Yeah, that's the worst part. Is like I talk about 30's a big number. I still think they'll cover that number.
Yeah, it's
just a big number.
It's just a big number.
And then the next one here, we've got a top 15
Go
matchup
Syracuse.
With Syracuse taking on Clemson in Death Valley. Is this the team? Syracuse is 6-0. Clemson's 13.5-point favorite. Can they be the one to stop Clemson? It's an 11 a.m. game, which usually favors road teams. Sean Tucker, he's a good running back. He also posts funny funny meme on Twitter every week, letting everyone know how he did. I live for those tweets every single Monday morning. He's hashtag blessed. But Garrett Schrader, he's a fun quarterback to watch. But, man, I just can't do it. As much as everyone wants Syracuse to win this, especially,
Well, my whole thing is that how good is Syracuse defense actually? Because they'll play. It's like, here's the thing. NC State, yeah, they beat a ranked NC State team, but NC State was without their starting quarterback back. So I don't know if that would have really changed the outcome. I think it wouldn't have. I think Syracuse still would have won the game, but it would have been more competitive.
Yeah.
But Clemson obviously had their little weird stud against Boston College in that first half and then took off. And then they had a really close game with Florida State. So I'm really not so sure because the defense is inconsistent at the time. If Syracuse can do what Wake Forest did but actually be more competent to start the game, they could beat Clemson in Death Valley, but that's asking a lot because we don't know what to expect from Syracuse because they spent up to that point half the season playing not really tough matchups. They got their first tough matchup against NC State, who really didn't turn out to be much of a matchup because they don't have their quarterback. But the rest of the team was still there, and they played really well. Nothing to take away from Syracuse being a good team this year, but I'm going to say it's a close game for the most of the game, but I think Clemson just pulls it out.
Yeah, so to me, Clemson is they are an enigma this year. Clemson at home is a team I think could beat almost anybody in the country. Clemson on the road looks like one of the most frail teams half the time, where they'll look really bad for a half and then really good for a half. Clemson being at home, though, against Syracuse, I think they'll be up for it more. They'll be ready for what the Cuse are going to do. They know, hey, we've had some historically close games. Dabo Sweeney knows that, obviously. Dino Babers knows that, obviously. I think Syracuse will put up a fight for a little bit, but Clemson will overwhelmingly not dominate them, but take over the game.
Yeah, that's
like you were saying. It might be, Clemson wins by 14, but it was over in the halftime.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm expecting this game to go. Clemson will win comfortably, dominant-wise, but not score-wise. That's kind of how they are.
I think how I look at it is that they'll play relatively close for 2/3 of the – 2 quarters and a half. Clemson gets a comfortable lead, and then Syracuse tries to make a game out of it, but by then it's way too late.
Yeah. But I think Clemson gets it, and they begin their quest to slowly establish themselves once again as the team in the ACC, if they haven't already. The next one, we have two teams coming off a rebound, Mississippi State and Alabama. Alabama, they're 21-point favorites over Mississippi State, trying to get back in the hunt after that loss to Tennessee. If you're Mississippi State, they got beat at Kentucky last week. So both teams trying to come back, get a big win here.
Wow, man, they still Vegas not even giving Mississippi any form of chance.
No.
Understandable, because you have Alabama still played really well offensively, but gave up a lot of points defensively. But I'd say for this one, I don't know which Mississippi State team we're going to get. I don't know if we're going to get one that's going to hang 40 on someone, or they're going to just score like maybe 10 points. I don't know. Mike Leach teams are weird.
They are. But, they're very fun, though, because of how weird they are.
Sorry. Yeah, went down the wrong pipe. But I think this one, outcome doesn't really change. I think Alabama wins because it's in Tuscaloosa. And Mississippi State, well, I can't really predict what team they're going to get, but I'm going to say Alabama still wins.
Yeah, I think Alabama, this is their angry game. They're going to come out, and they're absolutely going to make their point in the first few minutes of the game. Mississippi State, it's going to be one of those, hey, thanks for showing up.
Take your beating.
It's 28-7 in the first quarter. Oh, no. That's kind of how I think this is going to go. 21 it's a lot, but I think Alabama will find a way to cover it.
I think Alabama
they'll put their points up on the board.
If it could go away, I think it possibly could go. The game could be pretty close for a half, and then the second half, Alabama takes over and gets the spread. Oh, I actually hit the mic.
Don't hit the mic, please. Do not do that.
But we both agree Alabama takes this.
Yeah, this is going to be a Alabama victory here, and they will try to make that case that, hey, we're still here.
Yep.
And the next one, Ole Miss, another big SEC game. Rebels going to LSU. Tigers are favored in this one. This is a weird one.
Well, and the main reason why they're favored is because Ole Miss didn't play the best against Auburn.
Correct.
Like, they jumped out, I think it was like 28-0 on Auburn, and then Auburn almost came back to take the lead in that game. And Ole Miss, for a good amount of the second half, just did enough to stay away, and then eventually won by 14.
Yeah, that's Ole Miss, though. That's who they are this year. They can't pull away from anybody unless you're playing like Georgia Tech, who's terrible.
That's terrible. But the thing is that that's something Ole Miss will need. It's going to catch up to Ole Miss either this week, or down the road. I know it will when they eventually have to play Bama. It's going to catch up with them. But LSU's being given a chance because, well, you're 5-2. You've played relatively well against almost everyone you've played except for obviously Tennessee. You weren't going to beat Tennessee. But I think Tigers will give Ole Miss a rough time. But Ole Miss will pull it out. Their offense will be too much.
That's what I think. Jackson Dart, he's going to struggle a little bit. This is going to be a rough game for a while for Ole Miss fans. But at the end of the day, I don't think LSU is there yet to where they can win this type of big game under Brian Kelly. I think this will be a game where LSU shows signs of what they want to be in the future, but they're not there yet. Not Jalen Daniels. If they had Jalen Daniels, it'd be a little bit different. But I do not think that LSU is going to be that type of team yet. They'll be close, though.
They're building there with the current staff that they have, especially forget his name, head coach.
Brian Kelly.
Brian Kelly. I was about to say Chip Kelly. I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah, so if Chip Kelly went to LSU, UCLA fans got to have some issues.
But Ole Miss will eventually. I think Ole Miss will eventually win the game.
Yeah, Ole Miss will find a way. It'll be tough, though. It'll be close. Should be a good one on CBS. And then at night, Kansas State taking on TCU. TCU trying to really cement themselves at the top of the Big 12. Kansas State, though, they're still lurking around the corner. Whoever wins this, first place outright in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. Huge game at a place they call the Carter.
The purple game is
yes, the purple game, basically.
But TCU obviously coming off a big win against Oklahoma State, even though it's like looking at the game, all OSU had to do was at least score 3 or more points to win that game. Didn't do it. Offense struggled. Bad play calling. TCU just took advantage and played lights out. And especially that fourth quarter, they were on fire. And it didn't, whether they won in regulation or overtime, I knew TCU was going to win that game, unless OSU did something different, which they didn't. But K-State still, they coming off a bye week, so they had time to prepare for TCU, and are more, at least in regards to the health, should be healthier than TCU. But TCU's offense gets going, it's going to be pretty good. I think TCU still has a much more favorable matchup this week than they did last week against Oklahoma State in regards to, I think, how it'll go throughout the game, because TCU struggled early in the first half offensively, but eventually got it going in that fourth quarter, third and fourth quarter, I should say, because they had momentum going. But K-State still is a really solid team. Expect them to try to hang on to the football as long as possible, because you don't want Duggan and company getting a hold of the football as much. And I think that's what will help favor K-State. I think TCU's defense, because they're not dealing against an injured quarterback any injured skill players for Kansas State. K-State's going to be much more ready. I don't know how to feel about this one, since in Fort Worth, obviously they would be favored, and you'd be leaning more towards them. But
yeah, TCU the 3.5 point favorites here.
I think I'm going to pick an upset here. I'm going to pick K-State to take over TCU.
See, to me, this is a hard game to pick, because
it is. That's
every game in the Big 12. That literally every game feels like a coin flip at times. This is one that I legitimately could see either team winning. You can make an argument for either side pretty easily.
Yeah.
But I think TCU, this is one of those momentum games that coming off that big win over Oklahoma State, they're going to show up, they're going to play well, they're going to enter that mode we've seen them do a few times already this year. They'll get off to a hot start, and K-State will claw back in it. They'll do everything they can. But I think at the end of the day, TCU survives another tight game and gets another big win, and we got to talk about a 7-0 TCU next week.
Yeah, and so that would put Sonny Dykes as Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, it
right
would
up
be.
there. He's already right up there, especially how he literally just came from SMU and just turned them around really quickly.
And TCU would get their 4th top 25 win in a row, which would be giant for that program and what Sonny Dykes is trying to build there. But Max Duggan, I mean, he's proven he's that guy. He is a really good quarterback. TCU's having a lot of fun. They're playing well, too.
He went from being a second-string guy behind Charlie Morris, who was supposed to be the guy for TCU, and Duggan got the opportunity to replace him and has taken full advantage of it.
He absolutely has.
I know I picked K-State to win it, but TCU wins this game, they're easily going to be going to Arlington.
Yeah,
I don't see anyone else in their way that's going to stop them.
Yeah. And the next one here, UCLA taking on Oregon, a top 10 matchup in the old Autzen Zoo there in Eugene. Bo Nix is ready for this game. You know how he's ready? He bought Chick-fil-A for the entire Oregon team because he wanted that big game feel like he had back at Auburn. That's a thing that actually happened. Sports are weird, man.
That's funny.
Oregon is a 6-point favorite in this game. This is where everyone's ready to see how does UCLA handle this. They beat Washington. They beat Utah. Oregon has the big one over BYU. And, of course, the 46-point loss to Georgia. That's just Georgia, though. This is going to be the game now in the Pac-12.
As of now, it's the game because you have both of them are undefeated in conference play, and UCLA is undefeated up to this point, and they're 9th in the country. Oregon's just right behind them. Oregon's didn't start off great, but they have played some of their best football since their loss. And Bo Nix has played like the quarterback we all probably thought he should have been at Auburn. Even though he showed moments of it in Auburn, he should have been that guy. Instead, he's the guy at Oregon. And obviously, Chip Kelly's returning to Eugene. So that's the storyline going in there. But this one's really odd because it's like both teams have dominated most of their opponents. Though you can make case Bruins have played closer games, though those last 2 games they played are deceiving because they were beating the living crap out of them most of the game. They just kind of let them back closer. But UCLA, I think, and Oregon are going to go swinging out the gate. UCLA, I think, will take advantage early. I think their offense is more sound. They're able to score quickly, able to get up. But Oregon will win this game because the home crowd and also their ability to finish a game. I think that will lead them get back into it much sooner. Bo Nix is on his A game, and they win.
Yeah, I think Oregon takes this one. UCLA's a great team. There's no denying that. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a great quarterback, but UCLA cannot execute when they absolutely have to. We saw it against Washington. We saw it a little bit against Utah. They'll get these big leads, and they'll watch them slowly slip away, but they don't ever,
fully step on their throat.
They don't ever fully step on their throat. They don't ever really suffer the consequences of their actions. I think that changes this week.
One thing I'm going to say is that these two will meet again in the Pac-12 championship.
They very well could. The next one here, homecoming in Stillwater, Texas, coming to town. Horns are a 6.5-point favorite. Going to be a interesting battle here because there's one reason for this. I went back and looked at it last night. Every time Texas and Oklahoma State, since 2014, the higher-ranked team has lost in Stillwater. Oklahoma State was upset in 2020. They upset Texas in 2018. Texas was the underdog in 16. They pulled the upset. Oklahoma State was the underdog in 14. I believe Texas was the underranked battle there, and Texas won. This is a very weird series when it comes to Stillwater. OSU has more success in Austin somehow than they do in Still.
Even then, did they not look at what happened last week with Texas? They lost to – they didn't lose. They
almost lost.
They played poorly against an Iowa State team they were favored to beat the crap out of. And Quinn Ewers didn't play his best ball game. But it's like Iowa State, obviously, since we're Big 12 guys, we know Iowa State very well. Iowa State has a solid defense that's probably the best in the conference overall, top to bottom. Just their offense, there's no offense. But thing is, Iowa State, they don't have an offense, but yet they were able to score 21 and actually get a lot of yards on that Texas defense. So you take an Oklahoma State offense with a more healthy Spencer Sanders, they're gonna run. They're gonna throw. They might throw all over, run all over that Texas defense. Now Quinn Ewers might have a good day throwing the football, but the run game might be a bit not as strong. Bijan Robinson will still have a good day. He'll probably get around 150, between 50, 200 yards throughout the game. But there's going to be points where OSU is going to stop that run game and eventually get to Ewers. I think really I don't agree with Vegas on this at all in regards to they're favoring them. I wouldn't be as mad about this if OSU. It's like I understand I want OSU to be favored, but it's like the reason why I'm only saying that is because OSU played a much better team than Texas did, but yet Texas somehow still getting the benefit of the doubt. Well, it's because it's Texas.
Yeah.
But I do think Ewers does have a better performance overall. He doesn't struggle as early on, but it won't be enough. OSU is going to force him to make some mistakes. OSU will take advantage. It'll be a close game. OSU takes the victory.
See, to me, I really don't know how to feel about this game. There are a few things I went into this saying, okay, I believe this will happen, and then I looked at some of the other factors. It's going to be a windy day in Stillwater. It's expected 20, 30-mile-an-hour wind. I think that'll kind of limit a little bit of what Ewers and Sanders do. I mean, that happens anytime it's windy here.
I would say in regards, it's going to affect Ewers a lot more since he's more of a pocket passer
than
and
Sanders. That was the next thing I was going to get to. With Texas, they're going to be a little bit more consistent on give the ball than to Bijan Robinson, Roschon Johnson. Oklahoma State, they could just let Sanders run if they needed to. You have Dominic Richardson
Sanders,
as well.
Dominic Richardson, Ollie Gordon, Nixon. You'll have
several weapons to go to there.
If you need to, do a jet sweep or whatever, and those guys can run.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But at the end of the day, there are two questions I have that determine how I think this game is going to go. How healthy is Spencer Sanders? I think he's healthier than he was last week. I would hope so. I wouldn't want something to happened.
More likely what they did was that he did not practice most of the week, but he's been able to throw better.
Yeah.
Just that it's like when we obviously watching the TCU games, he looks just fine, and then you realize, his arm's getting weaker throughout the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's not going to be the problem.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be fine as long as he does not hurt his shoulder.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing for me is which Texas will show up. I can't answer this question until the game starts, obviously. Yeah. I can only predict. But you know how I've preached about this. Anyone who watches Texas for 3 games will know this. They will show up for big games. They will not show up for small games. Them competing with Iowa State the way they did not surprise me one bit. Them beating, Oklahoma like they did not surprise me one bit. Texas will get up for this game. It's a 2:30 game. That helps Texas. You don't want to play in Stillwater at night. That's not a fun place to play at when you're an opposing team. I think Texas, with all that going their way, finds a way to keep it close, but I still think Oklahoma State takes the game. I still think they find a way to get it done. It'll be a close game. It'll be a fun game, but I think OSU will make a key stop late in the game, and Texas will not be able to answer.
Okay. I would have been fine if you picked Texas to win. I guess whatever. Yeah. But it's like I was just more mad that Vegas were favoring Texas by the fact if you look at how they've overall played. I mean, even in that win against OU, Ewers didn't have the best of moments throughout the game. I mean, he threw.
To be fair, they could have put anyone at quarterback.
The thing is, that's OU. Yeah. It's OU just not playing well defensively, but it's like, but everyone's obviously making a big deal about that one. Then people are just kind of wanting to sweep that Iowa State game under the rug. Yeah. Like they don't want to mention hey, they played poorly against Iowa State. Oh, what Iowa State game? Just constantly pushing it. But it's like if Texas win this game, it's just mainly Oklahoma State's offense just doesn't do anything. Yeah. And it's not really Texas being good. It's just that OSU's offense just not doing anything. Because I believe top to bottom, OSU has a better team than Texas. But obviously, in regards to quarterback play, I think yours is better. But Sanders has more, can do more than yours in regards to run game and able to throw.
Yeah. And the next one here, just to talk about it, just because it's a fun story. Wake Forest is a 20-point favorite over Boston College. The Demon Deacons are number 13 in the country. They're going to be riding the storm out. They've got all sorts of crazy things happening around them this week, but nothing really impacting them directly. Because if they play their cards right, they could do absolutely nothing, win this game, and be a top 10 team next week. That's an absolute possibility.
Yep. Depends on how things go. Depends how a lot of things go in front of them. We'll obviously wait and see on that one. But, yeah, Wake will cover the spread and probably a bit more.
Yeah, I would
that
think
offense
so.
is just too electric.
Yeah, they're a fun team to watch, though. And the next one here, whiteout, Saturday night, Minnesota Penn State. Not often we see someone that is not Ohio State or Michigan getting the whiteout treatment, but with big noon next week at Ohio State Penn State, they're going to give it the Saturday night game.
Yeah.
And so Penn State a 4-point favorite in this one over Minnesota. Minnesota coming off of back-to-back losses now to Purdue and Illinois.
Yeah, the loss to Purdue didn't make much sense. The one to Illinois was ranked, but still it's like Minnesota's just not playing like they should have been playing, like how they started. I mean, you whip on Michigan State, but then we realize they're not as good as we thought they were. But it just makes no sense for why Minnesota just cannot be consistent with themselves. It's like you lost to Purdue, which you shouldn't have, and then Illinois, that could have gone either way, but I still think you should have beaten Illinois. Well, as Penn State, they're coming off a big loss to Michigan, who they were competing with most of that game, and then Michigan proceeded to just unload on them. I think that's where it's going to be. And it was in Ann Arbor, so that's also another disadvantage for any team. But Penn State, I think, will bounce back. They'll take their anger out on Minnesota and then get ready to set their eyes on Ohio State.
Yeah, this is going to be the big deal. I think if you're Penn State, you're lucky this is the whiteout game because this is sandwiched right in the middle of Michigan and Ohio State. If this wasn't the whiteout, I'd be tempted to say Minnesota finds a way to get it done in Happy Valley. But being that whiteout, that is an entirely different atmosphere. Penn State will rally around it and get the big win there. And the final game, we have to talk about him. Tulane is ranked, everybody. For the first time since 1998, the Green Wave are ranked, and they're favored to beat a 4-3 Memphis team. Can the Green Wave keep the magic going? They're 7-point favorites.
I believe they'll be able to keep it going. Memphis should only have let's see.
Yeah,
they should only have like one loss, but instead they've went. Well, it's like they had to go to East Carolina, so that's I'll take away that. Give them that second loss there, but should have beaten Houston, and you choke that. Then you have a 4-overtime thriller with ECU. You probably could have won that game, but you didn't. But so this could have been a much bigger matchup going into this one. But even then, Tulane, you got to win. You got to make a statement out of this. Obviously, your one loss was the Southern Miss, and but everything else has been pretty solid for you. I think Tulane just gets by with a win.
I think so as well. I'm a firm believer in Tulane. This is a fun team that we saw flashes of it last year. They were a young team. We saw what they can do now. This year, they have the K-State win. They have all sorts of other stuff. I think this Tulane team's legit. We've got to talk about them as a contender now in the American. That is not since I really thought we would say before this year, but hey,
really, no one.
Everything is going well there. So the Green Wave, I think they get that win. And if they get their 7th win, oh boy, there's going to be a lot of partying in New Orleans.
Yep.
And I did not think I would be saying that for a Tulane win instead of an LSU win.
Exactly.
But just what a time that will be there. And as always, we thank you for tuning in. It has been another fun episode. As always, for Connor Gray, I'm Cade Kennedy. If you liked what you saw today, if you're watching here on Twitch, be sure to follow us at twitch.tv/NWTV7. Or if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video. It always means a lot. Comment below if you agree or disagree with what we have to say. It is going to be a fun weekend as always, and we'll be back here, of course, next week to summarize what all happens. If you want to know when we go live, feel free to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at NWTV7. And until then, have a good one, everybody.